Hi Leo, this is Lee at Fresh Astrology, and we are looking at December 2017. What we're going to do here is look at two of the bigger transits going on this month. One is Saturn moving from Sagittarius to Capricorn. It's a big move, a whole new era that lasts for 2.5+ years and tends to have an impact when Saturn moves. The other is right at the same time in the same area of the chart, we've got Mercury retrograde, so we'll take a look at that. We also have, during the same time, in the same area of the chart, we have the movement of the Sun and Venus, which I will address separately in a download from my website at www.freshastrology.com. You can go to the store section and scroll through to find your sign, your rising sign, your moon, and it'll say December 2017, and that will be looking at Venus more specifically. Also, you'll notice I have the 2018 forecasts up there for download. So, Leo, what we've had going on is Saturn in Sagittarius, which is a fellow fire sign. So in some ways, this has been a time that's been beneficial for you in building. So it kind of has felt like, even though some things have been challenging in this fifth house area, that some things have really built up in a good way. You've built a foundation here and learned some things that are helping you move forward more positively and with more knowledge and more open-mindedness. In many cases, it's the kind of open-mindedness that means you're willing to learn to look at something in a new way and to kind of stretch and grow in this knowledge. So the area of life that's been affected, or the areas of life that have been affected for many Leos, if not all, have been the areas to do with romance. So this doesn't always mean that a Leo has had a romance during this time. Sometimes Saturn comes in to kind of freeze an area while the person learns about relationships, maybe by kind of going back over what's happened in the past, or just learning by maybe watching others, or maybe by somehow having the absence of or a limitation that's been imposed somehow in a romantic relationship. Maybe there's been some kind of restriction of time with somebody's a long distance romantic partner, or maybe they're something to do with their health, or something to do with their age, or something to do with just your availability to them or their availability to you. Usually, in this case, a restriction on time may have forced you to grow and learn how to be in a relationship like this, where these restrictions apply. What have you learned? In some cases, the lesson will be, I've learned I can't do this. In some cases, it will be, I've learned I can do this. I've learned how to be more mature in relationships. But even if it's been the lesson of, I've learned I can't do this, that's a type of mature realization. Like, I'm not going to keep trying to do something that's just not going to work for me. Maybe that's the most mature knowledge to have gained throughout this, where maybe before this transit you would have been like, oh, I can do it, well, I can do anything, or we can make this work, or just kind of living on the fumes of optimism without really touching base with what's really, really working for you. Sometimes we wish we could do something, we wish it would work, but it just isn't. So only you will know. But there's been some kind of, if there is romance that's been going on, there's been kind of a restriction for some reason. If it's not been about romance, well, let me just back up. So there are definitely people out there where the romance has just been really not there at all. And it could be because Saturn's been here. And it's to kind of hit pause and create a time frame for you to learn or review or grow in a different way and focus on different things as opposed to focusing on romance. And there was some kind of purpose that was being served here. One might be your relationship to your children. Maybe there's some growth and focus that had to happen with children, and it meant that romance could not take front and center, could just not be front and center. And children had to maybe take center stage for some reason, or take a stronger role. And that may have impacted your romantic life. But certainly if you have children, there was some kind of focus here that was intentional or needed to become intentional. And it also has to do with time. How much time are you spending on this? Is everybody being the most mature person they can be? It's more important that the grown-up be the most mature person in the room when it comes to children. That would be the, ideal. The children's not the most responsible, mature person in the room. Who's the most mature person in the room? Hopefully it's the parent. And sometimes we have to learn this the hard way. It's not easy being a parent. Being a parent definitely can show you the mirror of how immature you are. We are. I include all of us. I'm a parent too. So being a parent can be some of the hardest work we've ever had to do in terms of our own personal growth. So that may have been a theme. A child could have needed more attention. If there are no children, no romance, those issues don't really ring a bell. This is about you working on having more fun in your life. How do you work at and grow and learn about this area of fun? What do you need to have fun? What's been missing? What kind of fun has been missing? How can you build a life where fun is a part of it? It's been a time where this has been a little more of a question. How do I have a life that feels fun? How do I build that? How do I learn how to do that? This is also a time of maybe a bigger creative project. Or if it doesn't feel like creative can sometimes be a restrictive word. Creative is really anything you're creating in your life. What are you making something into that was nothing? What are you pulling out of thin air? Are you creating a new business, an interesting hobby that isn't typically traditionally considered creative? Is it a hobby? Are you learning how to do something new that's kind of fun for you, but it's more of a skill, maybe a type of work that you've been developing that's actually fun for you? So maybe work is fun. So only you will know where you fall in the spectrum. So in this month of December, as we have a Mercury retrograde going over the same area, it's time to kind of review and honor where you've been. What have you learned over this last 2.5 years? Honor the lessons learned. See how much you've grown. Give yourself credit for having learned and opened yourself into this kind of student mind, which is more flexible, more open to learning. It's a skill to have this student mind, this quote-unquote student mind. Where has it served you in this area of romance, children, your hobbies, growing some kind of project or creative pursuit? Where have you grown? Have you grown any investments? Have your investments grown? Sometimes that's a piece of it. What have you learned about investing, long-term investing? So that is something to use that Mercury retrograde to honor, to review. Maybe if you've been working on a creative pursuit, revise, go back and rework it somehow, see what the lessons learned have been so that you can apply those lessons and make use of them so that you can move forward. Because toward the end of December, what will happen is Mercury will go direct, Saturn will go into, not necessarily in this order, Saturn first goes into Capricorn, then Mercury goes direct. And you're moving forward now with the themes of Saturn in Capricorn and Saturn in the 6th house. So this has a lot to do with your daily schedule, how you care for yourself, how you maybe care for others. That won't be like every single day necessarily of the Saturn transit through Capricorn, but there may be times when there's somebody else you need to care for. It's definitely about self-care. It's definitely about your own personal schedule. How do you decide what schedule works for you? What's the best way to take care of yourself? And these are just questions that'll come up. It's also strengthening and building foundations for work relationships, friendships. Sometimes this is a time when a person could get a pet. This is a time when, so it's that idea of caring for something, taking care of something. Sometimes it's a pet that needs extra care. You might experience a pet you already have needing more care, but sometimes this is a time when you'll take on having pets, or farm animals, or a farm for that matter. Sixth house rules farm animals and farms. Sometimes you'll have people working for you, that suddenly you'll become more of a manager, and you'll have people under you, so to speak. And how do you grow and learn in a management role? That can happen too. But it's definitely learning how, what schedule works for me, what schedule supports my overall well-being. That is something to start toward the end of the month thinking about. What do I really want? And if you want to know more about Venus in the 5th house, which can be love and romance, maybe a child, if you're looking to have children, pet project, money coming in with some kind of project, go to my website, www.freshastrology.com, to get that download and also your 2018 forecast. Take care.